Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Double. I appreciate you being here. Today, in the pursuit of inexpensive gear, I found something that actually has what could be and should be a very usable feature. It's the Aklot Power Pedal Supply, and it has in it a built-in buffer. So not only is it an inexpensive pedal power supply, it also has a built-in buffer, and you can put that really kind of anywhere in your chain due to the effective in and outedness of it all. It has this little on-off switch, so if you're in a place where you don't need the buffer, or you're in a situation where you're using something where having the buffer on you don't want, turn it off or don't plug into it. But it has a little loop through, a little pass through here. And as well, it offers kind of, recognizable, I'll say, power supply feature set and appearance. The power goes in here. It gets an 18-volt power supply, which is in the box here. The box also comes with a bunch of power cables to power all of your pedals up. The very first one is 18 volts and 100 milliamp out. And then the next couple here are 500 milliamp. I've already opened this up and kind of tested it with my board here, and I can tell you right now that this has trouble powering a line 6 M5, which generally is pretty good on a 500 milliamp. So I don't know how exactly accurate that 500 is, but I will say that I did have good luck powering up everything else. The other nice option, it has a little USB power supply there. I was actually able to power a pedal up with a 5 volt to 9 volt USB adapter. It worked, but I ended up not using it in this current setup because I'm going direct, and any little bit of buzzy worriness is really brought out like a microscope. So you can plug your guitar into here, into the buffer, if that's what you would prefer. Or you can do what I'm doing, and I'm running my last pedal's output into the input of the buffer over here, and then running the output to my DI. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back on the board real quick, and I know power supplies are boring. It's a boring topic. I wanted to let you know this one isn't that bad. I had a little noise going on. I think it's because this Mosky right here, this saw, I'm using the loop, and sometimes loops get a little funny with power supplies and power in general. You won't stay still for demonstration purposes. Anyway, I think the Mosky loop was kind of giving some noise here. So I'm going to set it all back up the way that it is, but then in the next video, I'm actually going to highlight and feature the Mini Universe pedal. That'll be the next video coming up. So I want to add this to this board, and I'm probably going to get the Mosky off here just because. I'll get this out of here, and I'm going to add this. For the rest of this video, all I'm going to do is just do a quick demonstration of how this is powering this up and just play real quick. It's noisy. So that's what I mean, okay, hold on. Okay, so yeah, anyways, some power supplies don't work great with effects loops, like in amplifiers or even other pedals. And as you just heard, if I have the effects loop off and I'm bypassing all the things in there, when this is being powered up and I'm running direct, whoo, that's a lot of noise. However, when I turn on a preamp or even a distortion pedal, and then I make sure, something that's in that effects loop, and then I make sure it's on, it's actually not that bad. See, but as soon as either that preamp or one of these distortions, either way, you see what I'm saying? I'm actually discovering that the Sol is giving me, the Mosky Sol 918 is giving me a bunch of weird little noisy things. And I'm only finding that out because of mixing up cheap gear. And that's what happens when you mix up cheap gear, right? all the different things stand out. The preamp is going to be something that just stays on. It's acting like a preamp, and so I'm always going to have that on. So that helps. Once that's on, the noise is gone. But using that buffer, when I was running it into the return of amps and stuff and trying it that way, the buffer, turning it on with this loop on, just running all of this board directly into the return of an amp, that Marshall, I had to have that buffer on, okay, or else any little bit of noise was just being compounded through the cable. And so that buffer actually did help in a run going to an amplifier. You can put that little loop of the buffer anywhere within that point. As long as you are creative with your routing, and like they recommend in the manual, you can plug your guitar, whatever your guitar is going into. If you're using wireless, like for me, I have a little pass through on the input here, on the side of my board here that can go to the input if I want. I could run that into the input through my little patch bay over here on the side, and then have the guitar going right to the buffer. So the guitar is buffered. I wanted to buffer the whole board going into different things and test it that way. It did work. But to kind of demonstrate that type of noise that I was getting, it's mostly this, that. You get that, a lot of that. Little noise gate to help the noise there. And yeah, that little guy, like I said, the Aklot, I think those 500 milliamps, maybe a little, just not quite 500 maybe, because this line 6 just was like stuttering to turn on. This little board is definitely quirky. Power supply kind of maybe has its own quirks in its own little ways, but if you want a buffer and you want a power supply and you don't want to spend more than like 50 or so bucks, give that a look on Amazon. This is powering everything up other than this guy right now, and that's cool. I'm happy with that. I don't mind that at all, especially for that cheap of a price. So anyways, if you guys like this kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe. The MVAVE Mini Universe pedal is what's next. I'm going to get the Mosky Sol off this board, and it's going to become more MVAVE based. So that's going to be one of the next videos. If that's your kind of thing, please subscribe. If you like this video, please hit like. I appreciate you guys being here. To show you how sometimes, depending on what you have on your board, the power supply may agree with it and may not. I've taken off that Mosky Sol 918 with its loop, and in its place, I just kind of ran the wiring the way it was supposed to be, just to continue the normal flow. Tuner, phaser, slow gear, and then some drives. We got the MVAVE drive and the Friedman drive, hitting the preamp, hitting the cabinet simulator, and then there's a noise gate. And see, now it's so nice and quiet. I have the drive on, the heavy drive, and the noise is really minimal. I mean, I have preamp going and a drive pedal. And now if I wanted to stack, now I was just pushing the drive here. If I wanted to stack, give that drive a little more. Adding that extra gain stage does kind of introduce some noise, so now I can put the noise gate on, and you can hear everything's nice and quiet. So that's a good, I'll use the word good loosely. That's a good price for a power supply that in one configuration is phenomenal, nice and quiet, with the option for a buffer. Now, that Sol has given me problems with a couple of other power supplies, so I'm not going to hold it against this one. But for 50 bucks to get the power supply with all the juice to power up everything you're seeing on my board here other than the M5, and then to also have the option for a buffer. And that's pretty cool. I definitely can recommend this if you're looking for something in the budget range with some option, with an extra option, all right? I was going to say some options, but not really, right? It's a power supply. You're juicing some stuff up. And you can clean up your signal if you have a long cable in the front end or the back end, just depending on where you throw that buffer. So I'm happy with it. I recommend the Aklot if you're trying to save money. Is it as quiet as my CS12 in every situation? Probably not. You know, probably not. Is it for what I've got here with no loop involved now? Yeah, this is great. It's perfect. This is nice and quiet. Even with all the extra drives engaged, I get what I would consider a normal amount of hiss once you stack a couple of drives. So that's cool. You want a quick preview of the Mini Universe? That'll be the next video coming up. Will be this MVAV Mini Universe pedal. All right, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time on Double D Guitar.